Hey, I'm Mason Tatum. Today is going to be the start of my YouTube journey. What I plan on doing with this channel is kind of documenting my fitness goals, powerlifting, getting lean, getting jacked, and I think the idea behind it is just to get into the nitty gritty of it all and really show every step of the journey, the thought processes, the struggles, the injuries possibly, hopefully not, any goals, all the effort put into it, and, just kind of encapsulate all of that and hopefully help some of you in it. So to start off with, we'll go over my current stats. I'm about 5'10", maybe 5'9", 3/4, somewhere in there. I weigh about 188.2 pounds as of this morning. I would say I'm roughly 15, 16, maybe 17% body fat. Currently in a cut phase. I have been since about February. I took a long time off from lifting and I got up to right around 240 pounds. Probably not looking my best ever. Definitely not my strongest ever. And so yeah, since February, I've come from 240 to 188.2. What my goal weight is though is probably somewhere on the ends of like 178, maybe 180, just anywhere that puts me in that 10 to 12 body fat percentage range. I don't want to get so lean that I become miserable and my hormone levels start dropping, but I do want to have a good lean baseline to begin bulking again. Something that I'm going to do a little bit different this time though is instead of going straight from the cut right into another bulk for that cold weather, eating whatever you can, anything you can, I plan on being a little more intentional with it. I would like to maintain my weight or eating the maintenance for about 4-ish weeks. What I want to do there is just reset the baseline, see what my recovery is like, see what my strength's like, see just everything about me. If I were to stay the exact same forever, how would I perform? How would I look? From there, plan is to lean bulk, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that go bear mode in bulk season. They're just eating thousands upon thousands of calories in extreme excess, and I don't want to do that. I've done that a lot in my life, and clawing your way back from 240 pounds is long and arduous if done correctly. Now, of course, you can always crash diet and drop a bunch of weight really fast, but performance seems to suffer from that. Strength will suffer. You'll lose a lot of meaningful muscle mass, and those are just things that I'm not looking to do. So I want to lean bulk from about 10 or 12% body fat up until I'm around where I am currently at about 16 or 17%. I would think that would put me back around 190-ish pounds, hopefully if I've gained some lean mass by that point. And to do that, I'm going to be trying to aim for about 0.25 pounds to half a pound of growth a week. So anything more than that, we're overdoing it. Just a little bit more about me. I do have some goals for powerlifting, which are not listed here. I do have a goal of eventually deadlifting 600 pounds. Currently, my best is 530. Video right here for that. My best squat as of this moment, or really like 2 weeks ago, is 365. I will talk about a ghost PR, as I like to call them, of several years back, roughly 2020, 2019, somewhere in there, where I squatted 415. I would not consider that my baseline as of this point. Like I said, best in training so far has been 365, which is not a terrible point. I would like it to be higher. It would have been nice to be back in the fourth, but the 530 deadlift is an all-time PR. This 280 bench is an all-time PR. These are lifted to powerlifting standards, so the bench was paused. See the video for it here. to depth, also the video for that. One of the things I'm doing starting out today is I've been training in 8-week blocks. Usually what I'll do is start off with lighter weight, work my way up from, let's say we started on 225 for bench for a single, then we did some back off weight, let's say 185. What I would do with that is I would slowly progress up each week, even though that's not like a PR for me by any means. Just from week to week, adding something to the bar and kind of priming yourself to a peak condition. It keeps the gym fun. So I like doing singles, one for specificity work. I do plan on powerlifting again, like I said, and so training singles is the name of the game. You know, you go up there, you do a max squat, a max bench, and a max deadlift. You're not up there doing sets of 3, sets of 4, whatever. So I like to incorporate singles in my lifting year round. Just one, nothing too hard, nothing that's going to beat me up. It's not like I'm going for a PR every week, but just something to get everything else going. You know? You start out doing 280 on bench, and 225 for sets of 6 is significantly easier than if you were just to go into it raw. So that's one of the things I'm doing, singles, back off volume. I do a lot of pressing through the week. My split is upper, lower, and then shoulders and arms. And shoulders and arms is kind of open to interpretation. You know, I'm probably going to throw in some squatting in there. And one of the main drivers for that is I'm currently squatting once a week. I'm not a very strong squatter, and the strongest I've been with squatting has been with increased frequency. So, for instance, with bench press, I may not competition bench 3 times a week, but I am doing a pressing pattern of some sort 3 times a week, and I've responded to it really well, especially during this cut, which hoping to really focus on that when I start lean gaining. But the squat I've been doing 1 time a week, just one competition squat, a single followed by some back off volume. I also do sissy squats, but I don't really consider those a squat pattern. They're more like a makeshift leg extension. And then with deadlifts, same scenario, one heavy single, back off volume. So what I'm doing going forward is I'm still keeping the 3 times a week of some kind of pressing pattern, but I am going to up my frequency on squat to 2 times a week. So I plan on doing a pause squat at some point during the week, probably going to be on Thursdays with deadlifts, and then I'll do competition squats on Tuesdays on the first lower day. And the idea behind that is I was doing bench Monday, deadlifts Tuesday, and then squats followed on Thursday on the second lower day. But being that my deadlift has consistently went up during the cut and my squat really hasn't, I think it needs a little bit more priority as far as like my fatigue levels. Because obviously the more I train, the further into the week it goes, the more fatigued I am, the more those exercises suffer. So I'm swapping those. Squat's going to be on Tuesday, and then like I said, I'm putting a pause squat variation on the deadlift day, Thursday. The idea behind that is my squats are really explosive once I get to about mid extension of the knee. I would say once I can let my glutes and hamstrings take over, the squat's good. Coming out of the hole, whole different story. If I were going to lose a squat anywhere, it's not midway to the point. It is in the hole every time. I do squat a little below parallel, which may contribute to that heavily, but it's just where I've always felt more comfortable. And so what I plan on doing with the pause squats is really solidifying that position in the hole. If I can get down there and pause, let's say 275 for 2 or 3 seconds and still make it up out of the hole comfortably, then I will begin to own that position. You know? Deadlifts, really not going to mess with those too much. I seem to be responding well to 1 time frequency a week, and then just doing the back off volume. I do have a little bit of a sticking point on the floor. I think what I may do to address that is just introduce some pause deadlifts on the same day don't really know. We'll play with that more as I get back into the maintenance phase and then the lean bulk. I really don't want to overload myself with a lot of fatigue this late into a cut, because like I said, I have been cutting pretty consistently for about 6 months, and so the stuff's starting to add up. Some rough goals though is I would like to be able to squat back in the 400s. Intermediate goal would probably be 405, so 40 more pounds on the bar. Like I said, eventually I want to deadlift 600 pounds. It's probably a far off goal. That is another 70 pounds to go. I don't think it's too far out of the reach. When I did 530, I would say it was probably like RP 8, 9. I definitely had a little bit more weight on the bar that I could have put. Was it more than 10 pounds? Maybe 15 pounds? Probably not. So gonna be kind of mindful of that. I do think that I'm a much better deadlifter than I am a squatter. I do pull sumo. That is what it is. Another thing I want to do is bench 3 plates. That is every man's dream, is to bench 315. Of course, that is the short-term goal. That's another 35 pounds onto my bench. I don't think it's super far-fetched, especially since I've been peeing or PRing during the cut. I do have bodybuilding goals also. I currently sit with about 17-inch arms, unpumped, unflexed, or flexed, unpumped. There we go. I would like to get that number up. And they really go hand in hand, honestly. Bodybuilding and powerlifting, people treat it as a dichotomy. It's really not. I'm always a firm believer of the more muscle you have, the more weight you can push. You may not have the neural drive yet to utilize all that you've gained during a hypertrophy phase, but at some point down the road, if you are 10 pounds heavier with lean mass and you were to train for powerlifting, 9 times out of 10, the 10 pounds is gonna put a lot on your total. So currently looking at, like right at a 1,150-ish pound total. That's just me, doing a little quick math. I would like to get that up to about a 1,300 pound total. That's pretty close, around 600 kilograms. That is, like I said, the short-term goal, hoping to accomplish that within about 6 months to a year. One thing that I've taken into a lot of consideration over the last 6 months of training or so is it is a long game. Being obsessed with these numbers won't really get you anywhere. You gotta really pay attention to what you're doing. You gotta be deliberate about every day. It's just a small little chip off the stone. If you're trying to chisel out this great sculpture, you don't go and work on it all in one day. It's impossible to. What you've got to do is come at it little bit by little bit over weeks, months, years, decades even. And that's what I hope to achieve. Got a lot of lofty goals. We won't really go over here. But like I said, what this is just me documenting all that. I enjoy fitness. I love it. I love powerlifting. I love just weightlifting in general. And it's something that I want to share with people, that I want to help teach them about. I do eventually want to get into coaching. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge at my disposal for coaching athletes, and especially for general lifting. I may not be the best powerlifter yet, or even close to it, and know the most about it, but I like to break down my training and learn a little bit from each block that I do. And so I feel like in the long term, I might be a good powerlifting coach, but in the short term, I do know how to take you from what you are currently to what you want to look like in the mirror at some point down the road. Not every goal is attainable. There is progress to be made, and I want to help people make that progress.